What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. NFL Week 4 is on deck as we approach the end of the first month of the regular season. As always, we will quickly recap the prior week, and it's going to be a very quick recap because we went 6-0. I was super happy. Starting with Thursday, Dolphins team total. Then on Sunday, we had the Browns spread and money line, which was a big one. Um, Chargers, 49ers, and then that little parlay that we had. So, can't complain. 6-0 week. That's great. It put us way into the green for the regular season. Going back to week 2, we're 11-2 now on our last 13 picks. So it's been a very nice run, and it sets us up for a strong push here as we are in the groove now. We're feeling it. We're rolling, doing this week after week, looking at the games every day, watching the market every day. So let's get right into week 4. Just a quick reminder, if you want to get some free picks texted to you, it's on the screen right here, our phone number down below. It's our SMS line. You can text in. There's also a link down in the description with options there as well. So let's go to Thursday Night Football. We got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona at home, -1.5, 1, depending on where you look. A couple of pick'ems out there. This was 2, I believe, 2.5. Seattle took some early money. Totals at 43.5. I went against the Cardinals on Sunday, and to be honest, they played a better game than I thought they would. They impressed me. The San Francisco defense played Kyler Murray pretty well, and maybe that familiarity helped, but I thought the Cardinals played well overall and in the trenches too. I do think the loss of Connor is big for them. And I really liked how Seattle looked. Obviously, they played a bottom feeder team. You don't get much from that data point, them blowing the doors off of the Saints. But I do like this Seattle team. And going back to last season, since McDonald took over, they've been a better team on the road. They've been pretty good on the road. If you remember, in both games last year against the Cardinals, they handled them easily both times. The defensive game plan was very sharp against Murray. They baited him into throwing bad throws. He threw a couple of horrible interceptions in that game. One of them was in both games. One of them was a pick six, and Seattle took both of those games. And I lean Seattle again in this one. I like them in teasers. Obviously, you're getting that number sitting right there at 1.5, where you can tease it up to 7.5. But I do think they win this game outright. I think they have the better defense. I like how Darnold looks. A lot of people thought, including myself, by the way, that him moving from O'Connell in Minnesota, which had a really good defense that kept him in games, now over to this, but kind of hasn't missed a beat. He looks good. 2 wins in a row now, and even in week 1, a tough loss against a really good, fresh Niners defense in that week 1. But back-to-back weeks, Darnold's looked pretty good, and the connection with JSN looks lethal. That could be problematic against the Cardinals on a short week, who are already down, I think, 2 or 3 cornerbacks. So the secondary is really banged up. You saw San Francisco able to exploit that a couple of times on Sunday, but they didn't. They just didn't have their full arsenal, right? They have so many guys hurt, like Kittle's out, Ayuk is not back. You really didn't have much to go to in the passing game, but if those guys were there, I think it could have been a worse outcome because they just don't have a lot of guys in the secondary right now. The Arizona secondary depth is lacking. So I like Seattle in the game. I haven't played anything official on this one, but that's my strong lean to get us started to the Seahawks. All right, we'll move over to Sunday. We've got an early morning game on the East Coast here, 9:30 a.m., because it is an international game. Our first one of the season between not the first. We had a Brazil game, but second one between the Vikings and Steelers. Minnesota -2, 2.5. Seeing a 3 now over at Bovada. 41.5 is your total. Um, let's talk real quick about Carson Wentz. All right, I want to talk. This to me, this game. All right, first of all, I'll tell you that international favorites are like 66% against the spread. You know, what does that mean? What do you take from that? Technically, we're handicapping this game to be that it's being played on a neutral field, right? So what that tells me is the quote unquote better team is typically who you would have favored on a neutral, right? So the better team may be better at handling the travel, logistics, getting prepped. That's really all you could say about that trend. Why international favorites are 66%. Maybe the better team just handles the trip better. But I think the real thing in this game is, how do you handicap the backup quarterback angle, which I love. It's one of my favorite angles to play on. Played on it with the Niners twice so far, and it's paid off both times. Um, leaned if you go back and watch the video last week, leaned Minnesota with Wentz, leaned Washington with Mariota. So I love the backup quarterback angle. The question here is how long does it last? I'm a firm believer that the first game is the strongest play on the backup quarterback because that's when they're most inefficiently priced into the market. After a game or two, you get some tape, you get some film, it starts to wear off. But here's what I'll say. I was not impressed at all by how the Steelers looked against the Patriots. They struggled to put away New England, who is not a good team, in my opinion, not a good defense for sure. And they could not put them away and only scored 21 points on them. I don't see the immobile Aaron Rodgers having more success against this Flores defense, which loves to bring pressure and all those exotic looks. I think it's going to be a tough task. I think Wentz is fresh and is making the most out of this opportunity. But I think the defense will really win the day here. I like Minnesota. You could have got a much better number earlier, which is why I probably will lay off the game. You could have got a 1 on Sunday or a 1.5. It's now 2.5, and there's 3s popping up. So probably will pass, but I do think Mini wins the game. I like the matchup for the Vikings, and I like how they looked with Wentz at quarterback. And like I said, it's not going to last. Like I know a lot of people are quick to say, "Oh, they upgrade. They're a better with Wentz and McCarthy," and that may be true, but we only see one game, right? He's a backup for a reason. Probably see after like that second or third game, some of the cracks will start to show. But I think for one more game against a team like Pitt, that I don't think is a good team this year, I like the Vikings in this one. All right, now over to the regular 1 p.m. window on Sunday. A great game to get us started with the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. By the way, I forgot to mention, I have 2 releases already sent out for week 4, and one of them is on this game. So I'll briefly talk about it. 43.5 is your total. Okay, we got to go. You can't handicap this game without talking about what happened in week 3 because both teams had ridiculous endings to their game. The Eagles listen, you just got to be honest about it. Put it bluntly, they got manhandled by the Rams for most of that game. I mean, manhandled, punched in the mouth, walked down on many drives. I think the one drawback for the Rams, or their kind of like their Achilles heel, is that they just could not finish in the red zone. I think they went 2 out of 6 in their red zone trips. Got to convert those red zone trips into touchdowns, but they were constantly getting there. And then, of course, second half, you see Hurts comes alive, starts slinging it all over the place. Eagles defense comes alive. 2 blocked kicks. The blocked kick returned back for a touchdown to get the cover. Probably the worst bad beat I've ever seen if you were a Rams bettor. And then the Buccaneers have had their own kicked block. The Jets come all the way back. They were down 2 possessions late in that game. Come all the way back to take the lead. Baker does what Baker does again and leads a game-winning drive with a field goal at the end of that game. 2 insane endings, 2 insane results. Which team is better equipped to handle that type of ending and still be focused the following week? For me, I can't get over the Tampa Bay injuries on the offensive line, and now the injuries basically all over the place. I can't get over the fact that they are winning games by the skin of their teeth. Probably have 2 wins they shouldn't have, potentially 3. I mean, all the games were won on the final play of the game. Baker leads the league in turnover-worthy plays, but has not thrown an interception. He's fumbled several times, but has not lost any fumbles. I mean, this is not sustainable, right? Like, if you continue to play reckless football, you are going to get burned. And I think the Eagles here can win in the trenches, which they've had trouble doing against this team in the past. But similar to what you saw, guys, I'm sitting here Monday night, similar to what you saw tonight with the Lions and the Ravens, right? The Lions went in there and they remembered that 38-6 loss a couple years ago in Baltimore, and they came into this game with a chip on their shoulder. I think the Eagles will remember that the last 2 times they came to Tampa, they got bullied in both games and they lost handily in both games. But right now I see a Tampa team that is banged up, injured, playing kind of, careless, carefree football. I think it comes back to bite them here. I like the Eagles in the game. Now I got an early 3. You're now seeing 3.5s pop up, that is why we bet early. That's a part of what we do. This was even 2.5. I'll admit I missed the 2.5, but I did take 3. And I think this line should be, I line this game at 4, which is why I like the 3 because you're getting a point around a key number. So I like Philly in the game. Lean to the over as well in this one. I've got a little bit of an edge on the over the total as well at 43.5, but my stronger side here is the Eagles to get a big win in Tampa Bay. This next game, I can't tell you much about. You get the Saints taking on the Bills with a 16.5 point spread. Yeah. I mean, Buffalo's going to win. I don't know. These large spread games, I tend to just really stay away from them. If you want to, put the Bills in some money line parlays, it's not going to bring down the juice much. 47.5 is the total. I just got nothing on this game. What I would say is sometimes with these very big dogs, like for example, on Thursday Night Football in week 3, we did this. You get these double digit underdogs and you look at their team total. Like Miami's team total was 17.5. Against the Bills defense, that to me is just a slightly above average unit. They're not one of the, in my opinion, per my numbers, not one of the elite defenses in the NFL. Maybe look at a Saints team total. I don't know what it's set at. We can look it up here and try to and find out what it's set at. But I find that when you have a team that's a huge dog, a double-digit dog, they're going to get down early, right? They're going to get down probably by a lot. And what's going to end up happening is they're going to have to throw the football. They're going to have to throw. Spencer Rattler's probably going to throw 45 times in this game. Their total's at 15.5, and it's juiced to the over, minus 120. If I was going to play this game, guys, if you put the gun to my head, I think that's the only thing I would look at. I would say Saints team total. Give me 2 touchdowns and a field goal in garbage time of this game. That's how I would look to play it. I would look Saints team total over 15.5. Anything else, I'm not touching. Another game that I'm not touching, the Carolina Panthers are headed to Foxborough taking on the Pats. This was 6. It's now come down 5.5 across the board and a total of 43.5. Much better showing from the Panthers at home. But don't get fooled. I mean, I'm just, maybe something clicked, but I would just say don't get fooled because we have a large sample of games that tells us this is one of the worst road teams that we've ever seen, the Carolina Panthers. So I can't just say, wow, they won 30-0 at home. I'm going to run and back them against the Patriots. This is just a high variance game that I want nothing to do with. Drake May could slice them up for 30 points. The Panthers could keep it close. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I'm not going to, I line it right around where it is. I have it at 6. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what's going to happen in this game. Maybe look at some props. If I was going to attack this game, if I was only given this game, I would probably look at some props, some Drake May props against that Carolina defense. If you go back and watch, which I do every Sunday night, rewatch some of the games. If you rewatch Atlanta, Carolina, I think most people would come away from that game saying it was more Atlanta just having an awful day, just an off day across the board, versus Carolina, just having a great game. Like that's not what that 30-0 final score indicates. It was really more of the Falcons' blunders, over and over and over versus the Panthers kind of like dominating them. That's not what happened at all in that game, and you can see that from the box. All you have to do is look at the box score. They outgained them, and they ran the ball well. They just couldn't finish anything, and lots of turnovers. So, for me, stay away on this one. It's just there's several games on the week 4 board, unfortunately, where it's just like, my numbers don't like anything, and I'm not touching it either anyway. So we got to be kind of picky with our spots. I'm not a volume better. I know some people are. They'll bet every game on the board and they'll, pick a side and play like small edges. I'm not. I look for situational advantages, matchup advantages, and a power rating advantage, and then I fire on the game. So I'm a little bit different in that way. All right, next one up. You've got the Commanders taking on the Falcons. This is a game that I have not played yet, but I'm very interested in playing. I'll explain why. Washington laying 2.5 on the road. 45.5 is your total. And you can maybe get it. It looks like DraftKings does have a 3 up, but this is not a widely available 3. So you're looking at consensus line of 2.5 here. But I love this spot for the Falcons for the exact reason that I just talked about in their game against Carolina. Very misleading final. The Falcons are not that, 30-0. They're not that. That's not them. Okay. That was just one of those games. And you'll get this sometimes with these average to mediocre teams with their Jekyll and Hyde performances. Like one week, they'll look so ridiculous. Like, look at how they looked against Minnesota. I mean, they looked dominant on defense. And then you turn around and you play a divisional opponent in the Panthers, and you're like, well, this is not the same. Well, who is this team? What did you do with the team that was there last week? Things just get funky like that in the NFL because you're dealing with only 17 games. It's such a small sample size. There will be spikes, peaks, and valleys that certain teams encounter. But I think this is a great spot to back Atlanta. Put them in teasers, 2.5 up to 8.5. They're at home, a home dog catching points against. It's different when you have a home dog. Like for example, or forget the example, but just in general, home dogs against truly elite NFL teams on the road, I usually don't touch because great teams will go in there and stomp you. It doesn't matter if you're getting 5, 6 points at home. But, a team like Washington, who to me is an above average team in my power ratings, but not one of the elite teams in the NFL, and we'll have Daniels coming back from injury here. I think this is a great spot. And Washington's coming off of a big win. There's plenty of systems, by the way, popping on this game. Like, when you have a home underdog after getting shut out, 62%. Home underdog after losing by double digits, 64%, whatever it is. Another one is when a home underdog that just got blown out and your opponent won via blowout, it's like north of 70% against the spread. So if you're going to play this ATS, I would look shop for the 3. A couple books have 3. Even if it's a 3 at minus 120, I would grab that. Or I would play Atlanta up in teasers, and I'll actually give you the second teaser leg later on. There's a game that I love that you can pair it with. So Atlanta, to me, it's Atlanta or pass. But if you're playing Atlanta, get 3. Otherwise, throw them in teasers. All right, Browns versus Lions. We just saw the Lions with a super impressive Monday Night Football win. 8.5, 7.5. Yeah, between 8.5 and 7.5. 45.5 is your total. Again, you could throw the Lions in teasers. It's sitting there. It's begging you to tease them. I don't think they'll have a lot of issues with Cleveland. Cleveland just got a huge, massive win. When teams get enormous wins as underdogs, when they pull off big upsets, okay, that was a plus 360 winner that we got on Sunday. When teams do that, they're almost always fade material the following week. Now, I know they're getting a lot of points, but they are going on the road where they've looked much different this season than at home. They've played 2 super competitive games at home. They have an excellent defense. I think it's the best defense in the league. But Detroit at home indoors is really tough to stop. Really good. I lean slightly to the under. I see a little bit of an advantage on the under. In terms of the spread, I think the only way I would look at this is teasing Detroit down, but I'm not. This is very likely a game that I pass on. I'm just not interested in either way because I've got a team coming off of a big upset win. And guess what? I've got a home team that also just pulled off an upset win in primetime and now has to come home on a short week. So neither spot is great. I think the defenses kind of point to an under. I think they're 2 pretty good defenses, especially Cleveland's. But it's a tall task to slow down the Lions. So lean under in this game, under 45.5. If you can get a better number, 46 maybe, but nothing much on this one. Titans taking on the Houston Texans. Houston -7 at home. So this was the second game that I was talking about. If you want to tease Atlanta, plus 8.5 at home, take Houston down to -1. Listen, it's do or die. That's it. The Texans, you're 0-3. I'm happy about this, by the way. We have under 9.5 for their win total. So good. But this is it. If you can't beat the Titans at home, that might be it for Coach Ryans. How do you continue on this path? I know you could say the same thing about last week, but 0-3 is a lot different than 0-4. And it was on the road, and the Jaguars are certainly a more formidable opponent than the Tennessee Titans are. The Titans look horrific. I thought Cam Ward would be an improvement, but they are statistically worse on offense this year than they were last year with Levis. I don't know. I personally don't think Callahan's a very good coach. I think I've seen enough now from last year and this season. I think he's a bad coach. And I don't think they're going to improve until they make a change there. But totals at 39.5. You have that great Houston defense. Tennessee has competed a bit, but when a good team has gone up against them, they've gotten carved up. Excuse me. Aside from week 1 where the Broncos just kind of looked rusty, it was week 1, right? A lot of weird things happened. But the Rams put up 30 plus on them. The Colts put up 40 plus on them. Houston, man, you gotta score some touchdowns. This is getting insane on offense. So I like the Texans as a teaser leg. If you want to tease them to -1, add them with the Falcons. I think that's a solid combo. Um, there's a better one. I think there's a better teaser leg later on here on the slate, but I do like the Houston one. I'll probably use it in one way or another. Next game up, the Chargers taking on the Giants. LA is -6 on the road and a total of 44.5. The Giants put up 9 points on Sunday Night Football. I'm not sure what to make of that. They're not a good team. They're not a good offense. My only It's not really a hesitation. The Chargers are going to win this game, but my only thing about the spread here about laying 6 is maybe they switch to dart in the middle of the week, and now you have an unknown. That's the only reason I would take maybe just wait on this one because Harbaugh, by the way, Jim Harbaugh is elite as a road favorite. Every time the Chargers pop up as road chalk, I always look to play them, like I did in week 2 against the Raiders. That was our 2-unit play in week 2, the big one that we cashed. Anytime they are road chalk, I look to play them. He is now he's 13-2 overall ATS, 13-2 as a favorite with the Chargers, but as a road favorite, he's 7-1 as a road favorite with this team. The Giants are just not competitive. Now, my only thing here is if they switch to dart in the middle of the week, it's not so much that he's going to be so much better than Russ, but it just presents an unknown, something that you cannot accurately handicap. You haven't seen him in an NFL game yet, so you just can't prepare for it as well, and that might cause some variance. You don't want to add variance to the games, right? So if we have to now substitute dart for Wilson and try to figure out what that means, quantify that mathematically, it becomes a bit challenging. But you want to throw Chargers in 6-point teasers, throw them in money line parlays. They're probably gonna win the game. Amazing comeback by them on Sunday. We had them. There was the walk-off field goal. It was just a clutch fourth quarter. Harbaugh managed the game masterfully. Herbert was a dog late in that game, making some insane throws. They're a really good team, man. I think the Chargers are a very good team. I love the way they play. I love the way they win. Really solid. I don't think they'll have any problems with the Giants. I think they're going to start the season 4-0. All right. Jaguars taking on the 49ers. This was 4.5, and Jacksonville took some money, despite the fact that Brock Purdy will probably be back this week. We're now seeing 3.5 across the board and a total of 46.5. My initial lean here was to the Jags when I first saw the 4.5, but then the market moved and I thought about it a little more, and they're just such a difficult team to predict. They're coming off of a gritty, tough divisional win at home against the Texans. If you watch that game, that was a tough game. It was 10-10 late in that game, fourth quarter. So it wasn't much offense. It was a defensive grind. They were going back and forth. A huge turnover at the end of that game where Nico Collins fumbles and the Jags get it and they go down, they score a touchdown. Just a gutsy win. And I don't love backing teams after that because it takes a lot out of you in the NFL. So now they've got to hit the road, go to the West Coast against a Niners team that's also 3-0. Maybe they get their quarterback back in this game. Just kind of a tricky spot. But at the same time, when I look to the other side, the 49ers, they haven't been good covering spreads north of 3 at home under Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan has a great road record, similar to what I talked about Harbaugh. Great road record. Great record as a dog. Not great laying chalk at home. So it leads me to just pass on this game. I don't want anything to do with it. I lean slightly to the under because that San Francisco defense has been really good this year. I think you could make a serious case that the Niners are only 3-0 because they brought back Robert Saleh. 17-13 win over the Seahawks in week 1, held them to 13 points. Took Saints in week 2, played well offensively, held them, I think, what did he score, 21, something like that. And then last week, a great game defensively against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. So Saleh has been cooking, and I think that has really helped them to get to 3-0. Now no Bosa, torn ACL, Bosa out for the year. Tough loss, but, statistically, he wasn't going crazy this season, but I do think his presence makes a difference. So it's going to hurt them, but I'm just not sure it's going to hurt them enough in this game. I think that they can take care of Jacksonville, but I wouldn't be surprised once again if this is like a 3-point win, if this comes down to a field goal at the end. So I don't want anything to do with either team because I think the Jags have blowout potential either way. and I think the Niners are just a little bit shaky at home. I think basically there are better spots on the board, and I think you could wait to get either of these teams in better spots down the road. They're both coming off of big divisional wins. It's now a non-conference, non-divisional game. It's just a tricky spot, and I would avoid it. It's a pass for me. You got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the LA Rams. I gave you guys Eagles. This is the second play that I took this week. We are now looking at fours across the board with a total of 49.5. I took Eagles. I took Rams minus 3.5 in this game. I love this spot for the Rams. Love it. Love it. Okay, the Colts are 3-0. The Rams just suffered their first loss. They are 2-1. But you could not ask for on paper a better spot than this one with the way the Rams lost that game. And the way I like to handicap these games, guys, is I ask myself a very simple question. I know some people might get annoyed with what ifs, but what if the Broncos do not commit that leverage penalty against the Colts in Indianapolis and give them a second chance at the game-winning field goal? And what if the Rams kick at the end of the Eagles game is not blocked? Because those are two very fluky plays. Now, if you just had a normal ending to one of those games or just a methodical drive and ended in a game-winning field goal, fine. But you want to eliminate the high variance plays because those are unlikely to happen again. So what's a high variance play? A blocked field goal is a very unlikely play to happen. A leverage penalty is rare. So the fact that we have opponents here that one benefited and one got burned from two fluke plays. Okay, the Colts benefited from that leverage penalty, gave them a win. And then they go in and stomp Tennessee. And then the Rams, with the way they lost against the Eagles, we all saw that. Two blocked kicks in that game, by the way. This, to me, sets up as a perfect buy low, sell high. Now, I went back to my preseason ratings. What do you make this line? I asked myself, if those two things did not happen, they did, but what if they didn't? What's my line? And my line is 6 in this game, but per my numbers. So I quickly jumped on 3.5, sent it out to everyone. It's now 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're closing at 5 in this game. I just think the Rams are finally a team that the Colts will face that can beat them in the trenches, that can compete with them on both sides of the ball. I don't think, Denver was a tough one because they were coming into Indy. You've now got Indy going to LA, to the West Coast. This Rams team is going to be upset, annoyed, frustrated with how that game ended, and I think they're going to take their frustrations out a little bit on this Colts team. I think they'll be able to get pressure on Jones, who does not have good numbers in his career under pressure, but the Indy O-line has done a great job of keeping him protected so far. But I think this is the game where they could finally get exposed a little bit. And on the other side, I expect Stafford to have a big game and just carve this defense up. So I like the Rams. We got a good number at 3.5. So we'll see where the market goes. I think it's going one way. I think this is a one-way trip up. But we'll see where we're at later in the week. I like the Rams in this one a lot. All right, Bears taking on the Raiders. We got a pick 'em spread here, basically a Vegas -1 at home. 47.5 is your total. I don't know what to make of either team, guys. The Raiders went into Washington against the backup quarterback, got stomped. The Bears blow out the Cowboys. The Cowboys look like potentially one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Chicago got their first win. Maybe they're fat and happy. I don't know. It's a very tough game for me to call. I think if the Raiders strike me as a team that if they are going to win, it ain't going to be by much. So maybe you throw the Bears in teasers, but for me, this is a hard pass. I don't like this game either way. And I could see this line kind of like flip-flopping back. I could see the Bears and going to -1, the Raiders going to -1, and those types of games, unless I have a distinct like advantage on one, unless it's like a road team that maybe is a lot better and the spread's not high enough. But these two teams to me are right around the same, and I want nothing to do with either of them, to be honest. Marquee matchup we have with the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Ravens -2.5 on the road here at Arrowhead. 48 to 48.5 is your total. This one's a little bit tough because they just wrapped up Monday Night Football. Before Monday Night Football, I would have told you slightly leaned Ravens here, under the key number of 3 at Arrowhead, just because, it seems like you could never win a playoff game there. So maybe you're going to get a regular season game. The Chiefs will give you a regular season. Chiefs just got their first win, but they still looked very limited against the Giants. Only put up 22, was it 23 points? Didn't have much offensively. That was really a Mahomes win, man. He was amazing in that game. The stats might not look at the final score, might not look at because they don't put up a 35, 40 points. If you go back and watch, he played an unbelievable game in that game. Didn't make any mistakes, kept them like just everything was really well done, and he got them that win. Now it's the Giants though, right? Now you come back home, much tougher test. The Ravens took a I've been sitting here watching this game. It was a bad loss. The Ravens got beat up on Monday Night Football. So this is going to be a kind of a litmus test. You're 1-2 now, and you're headed to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Tough spot. It's hard to call it either way, you know. If you wanted to sell me on Chiefs and teasers, I'm listening, but the total's a little high for me. I like to tease games that have lower totals because the points mean more. This total sitting around 48 and getting up to like 49. I'm not interested in teasing. You know, the Ravens could certainly win by double digits. They're that kind of offense, but it gets me questioning them a little bit now with the performance we just saw from them on Monday night. And they got to get those guys back. They missed Matabuke a lot in the running game. It's just a tough call. I lean Ravens. I wouldn't even, one of the things that I like to look at anytime that I see a Ravens game is the first half. If this first half spread is below 2, I would look at that because they have Lamar has a phenomenal first half record. I think when he's a first half favorite of less than a touchdown, I think he's like 17-6, something crazy like that. Maybe Ravens first half and the Chiefs get it going late like they often do. I could see that. Overall in this game, I lean Baltimore, especially now that if the Ravens drop to 1-3, they're in trouble because you've still got some tough games coming up on that schedule. So I think the more desperate team here will be Baltimore, but it's a very tough. This game's gonna mean a lot. This is gonna have a playoff atmosphere, man. For week 4, this is a massive game, and I'm sorry that I can't give you. It's hard because we just wrapped up Monday Night Football, so I got to take the numbers from that game, get them acclimated into this shit, and then see what I come out with. But I have a feeling I'll probably end up around 2 or 3. It's just exactly where this game is lined, and probably will end up passing on it, even though it's a fun game. Might want to bet it, but my lean in the game is to Baltimore. All right, we've got the Sunday Night Football game is the Cowboys hosting the Green Bay Packers. This line was 5.5 this morning. Totals at 47. Oh, but we're now seeing 6.5s, and we're seeing a 7 at DraftKings. Tall number there for Green Bay. Green Bay was just in this position. They were laying 8.5 in Cleveland, and we're in position to win the game 10-0 with 4 minutes left, but that's the NFL. It happens. Browns get the outright win. You got to put teams away. Now, I don't think that's going to happen in this game. I think the Packers will be pissed, and they will come into this game, and it's like, they're going from the best defense in the NFL to potentially a bottom 5 defense, and I think they're just going to light up the Cowboys. The last time they went into Dallas was that playoff game, and they blew them out. I think Green Bay is going to go off offensively. If you don't want to lay the 6.5, what I talked about earlier, Packers team total. I like Packers team total in this one, whatever it is. Let me see what the number is actually before I say that. Shouldn't just say, yeah, I like it and not even know what it is. Let's see. But this is part of, I've talked about this before, how to win in the NFL, you got to get a little clever. Like, you can't always just focus on sides and totals. I mean, it's mainly what we do, but you got to find other ways to win. Packers over 27.5. I like that better than the spread. That's 4 touchdowns. I like that. I may end up playing that. I like Packers team total over 27.5 for this game. I think they're going to light up Dallas. I think the Cowboys will have to throw a lot because they're going to probably be playing from behind. That is not good because Packers do a great job on defense. So I could see turnovers. I could see short fields. I could see quick drives that stall out for the Cowboys, clock stoppages because of incompletions. All of that points me to more points for Green Bay against this terrible defense that just got destroyed by the Bears. So Packers over 27.5. I like that. I also like them in teasers and money line parlays. They win this game. I'm pretty confident they win this game. Monday Night Football. We've got another doubleheader on Monday night. The Jets taking on the Dolphins. Miami -2.5. I can't believe this has gone up to 3 against my Jets. 44.5 is the total. I was going to come on here and say at 2.5, I'd lean Jets. I mean, I think out of the games that you've seen so far, I think the Jets are clearly the better team. But the backup quarterback thing complicates it a little bit. Both teams are 0-3. They desperately need a win. You know, it ain't gonna matter. Neither of these teams are going anywhere. Neither team is making the playoffs. You know, I lean slightly to the over in this one. I think both defenses stink. I think both offenses will be able to score points. So I could see over 44.5. Certainly, hey, there's 45s are starting to pop up as I'm recording this, so that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, just you want to tease the Jets to 8.5, but I wouldn't even do it, to be honest. Just it's so hard to get a read on these bad teams. And as I'm betting, you know, you guys know I've been doing this for a long time now. As I bet more and more on the NFL, I'm not interested anymore in trying to look cool or sharp and say, oh yeah, I'm going to take this 0-4 team versus this 4-0 team because it's sharp. I just care about getting good teams with good numbers and winning bets. I don't care about how it looks anymore. If you call it square, like, you know, I got Eagles and Rams this week. Yeah, it's square, but I think they're both going to cash. Last week, Chargers was kind of square. 49ers was kind of square. They both won. There's good coaches, good teams in good spots. And I don't think we have either of any of those things with the Dolphins and Jets. So pass. Bengals taking on the Broncos. This is the final game of the slate, and this is the other one I was going to mention. So if you want to tease Atlanta, I love Denver. So teasing Denver down -7 to -1. The total's 44 in this game, so that's in a nice sweet spot. The points will matter. I love teasing Denver down in this one. I think they're going to stomp the Bengals. The Bengals are terrible. They came into that game, again, you got the backup Browning against a very good Broncos defense. A Broncos team that has now lost 2 games in horrific fashion, all right? They're up by a touchdown against the Chargers in the fourth quarter, and they allow 10 unanswered to end the game, to lose by 3. Should have won the game at Indy. The leverage penalty I talked about earlier allows the Colts to get a second chance at the field goal. They lose. So you had back-to-back brutal losses. Now you come back home, right? 2 road games, by the way. Now you come back home from that 2-game road trip, settle down against a horrific Bengals defense. This defense is so bad. It's unbelievable. Browning might put up a few points here and there. The Broncos will win this game. And I honestly think they'll win it by double digits, but I like bringing them down from -7 down to -1. I would combine that either with Atlanta or with Houston as a little 2-team 6-point teaser, or just use the Broncos in some money line parlays. Like if you want to go, you know, Broncos, Texans, Packers might be a good, that's plus money. You got to be able to parlay 2 to 3 legs here and there to try to find edges. So I would go Denver. I mean, for me, it's Denver or pass this game. I'm not looking at the Bengals at all. They just you can't bet on a defense like that unless they're at home and they're getting a lot of points. But they were +3 on the road last week against Minnesota. I mean, look at what happened in that game. That was insane. So no faith. I think they were already a bad 2-0 team. The Bengals, with their 2 wins, were pretty fraudulent wins in games that they got dominated for the majority of them. And now that's coming to fruition as they got blown out in week 3. I think they're going to get blown out again in week 4. So I like the Broncos in that one. All right, that's your week 4 slate. We got a smooth 40 minutes in this week. Not too bad. Like I said, I did give you guys, I'm probably going to have more picks. I usually have like 4 to 6-ish picks on a card. But I did slide you guys a couple of free ones last week and this week. Rams, I'm on the Rams, -3.5, even though that number is gone now. And I'm on the Eagles -3. So if those pop up at good prices, you can go ahead and tail me on those. And if, like I said, if you want to get the free plays numbers down here, if you want to sign up like for the whole season, get the full service or a month or a week, there's discounts in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching. Drop, any questions in the comments. Let me know any games you have, thoughts about. Drop them down below. Let's get it going. Let's keep this streak going. Week 4 is almost here. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next week.